becoming one of the best early stage funds in the country. What a journey it's been, right?
We're not in this journey to be the sailor of their ship. We're here to be an enabler, right? And we definitely don't want to be the anchors. The mindset is still to accelerate our founders. The VC ecosystem has created, for some reason, a perception that the investor holds a little more weightage in the early stages than the founder. I firmly believe it's incorrect. The reason we are there as
We exist
backers is because of our founders. I think being a founder, if you're agile, you will most likely be the winner or the winners in that category. I wrote this quote: I had never experienced a roller coaster, and then I became an entrepreneur.
Wow.
And
So true. The first trillionaire in the world would be somebody who's solving for climate tech at scale. Like, what do you think about climate tech as an opportunity? Welcome to the ACLR8 Founder Academy podcast. Today, I'm super excited to be hosting someone who's not just been a founder, but a super active investor as well. Please welcome Sanil Sachar, founder and general partner, Huddle Ventures.
Thanks for having me.
Sanil, super excited to host you for this podcast, and I think massive congratulations to your oversubscribed fund too, which we've all been reading about.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And I can't wait to have this conversation with you. I absolutely love what you're doing.
Amazing. I think for our audience as well, would love to begin by knowing a little bit, about your personal journey, right? You've been a sports person all your life. You've been a founder. You've been an investor. You are an author. You are a TEDx speaker, right? So how has all of that culminated, and then led you to build Huddle and to the scale of where it is today?
Um, I think if I just sum up everything that I love doing, and you mentioned them, that they seem larger than they are. Because for me, I think everything came out of, it stemmed through being just a curious person. I've always been curious. I've always maybe had more questions at the end of the day than I have answers at the end of the day. And that always makes me want to solve for something. Now, that can get correlated to being a sports person by mindset. That I feel that you're always pushing to do something at a newer level, at a more advanced level.
You're always pushing your barriers. You're always trying to go one step further.
And fortunately, doing that, I think you and I have a common love for football, right?
Yeah.
And in football, one of the harder tricks is juggling, and I think being able to juggle multiple facets in terms of being creative, having to work your left and right brain, that always fascinated me, because I feel that if your left and right brain is tugging to each other,
Correct.
you can really build newer businesses through perspective.
Yeah.
Coming to the most important part of my professional life, which is Huddle Ventures, is that when Ishan and I set it up, we both have remained to be curious. I think today we push each other more than we used to solve.
How do you guys know each other?
Ishan and I have known each other for now 26 years.
Wow.
I feel very old when I say that out loud. We've been the best of friends. We've tried building a venture together in the past. I was 100% sure this is the person I want to build something with, because he's far greater than me in many areas that I learned to develop. We have very similar philosophies of life, similar goals, but contrasting views in many ways. So I think because we balance each other in areas of what we want, where we want to take this organization, where we want to take our founders, the most important element for us was being aligned to principles. The rest is circumstantial. The easiest bit for us could have been being comfortable that we're the best of friends.
Correct.
But we've been able to draw that line. And for me, the biggest part is that you do everything you do in life with ease when there's trust. And I think that was the biggest foundation Ishan and I had.
Correct.
Secondly, that his mindset's of a sports person too. And thirdly, that we just don't settle. And having someone like that makes you want to just do better each day.
Yeah. And I think what a journey it's been, right? Like Huddle started as an incubator, then you ran a few accelerators, then I think you had this whole idea of institutionalizing early stage capital to becoming one of the best early stage funds in the country.
Thank you.
You know, it's, I think this never settle mindset is what has, I think, kind of brought you on to where you guys are today, right?
I mean, I think the same can be said about you and what you all are doing at Accelerate. Very similar ethos, and I think that's why you and I hit it off from our first ever coffee.
Correct.
To fortunately now being here on a podcast that I am a viewer of. So I think for us at Huddle, you hit the nail on the head. This whole term of institutionalization. I think there's a lot of institutionalization in the later stage of investing for founders, but early, when our job, we believe, is turning founders into organizations. We want to come in so early. We want to be a part of their journey in business development. We want to fundraise for them. We want to be there when we don't even know what's going to go wrong or potentially what's going to go right. I think that institutionalization needs many accelerates. It needs many huddles, and it needs a pure fixation of being early stage and being accurate about what you do. So I think at Huddle, we're very clear about the stage we enter. We're very clear about the kind of founders we want to back. We're very clear about this areas that we want to support them in, and where do we not want to support. Because I think sometimes, the saying goes, right, too many chefs do kill the broth, and we don't want to be that for a founder. We're not in this journey to be the sailor of their ship. We're here to probably be an enabler, right? We definitely don't want to be the anchor. So we want to be a part of that journey with them. And I think that largely, the mindset is still to accelerate our founders. We're fortunate from Fund 1, now Fund 2, we have some great backers who are letting us build the institutionalization of early stage. And one part of it hopefully is Huddle, one part of it definitely is Accelerate, and there's so many other peers and funds that I can go on about that I love what they're doing.
No, it's, I think, super exciting. I think you mentioned that, coming in at an early stage, right? So would love to kind of, for you to elaborate, like generally, like when you talk early stage, how early is it? I remember talking to Jatin from Pufora, and he said that Sanil and Ishan kind of backed us जब हमारा नाम भी final नहीं हुआ था, and we were still figuring out the product category, and they were always bullish कि let's try newer categories and all, right? So how early do you guys come in? You mentioned that we are very clear on some areas that we'll do and some areas that we'll not do. So what are what are sectors that you guys are super excited by? What are things that you don't want to do? Would love to kind of know that.
No, firstly, we're very lucky to be a part of Jatin and Tushar's journey at Pufora. I'm a consumer for the very reason that they were so clear about what they wanted to solve for. Being able to figure out them figuring out their brand name was merely one part of their journey.
So I think that was one of the reasons why you guys also came in early, because they were clear on the category and what they were looking at building.
They were also clear about the gap in the industry of this whole oral care, the dental hygiene industry, building for new age consumers, building for age-old consumers also with the newer products that have come out. They were very clear about what they want to solve for. And I think that's a part that we have seen similar in a bold care with Rajat, very similar to my care with Senu. If I had to just give these three examples, in contrasting areas with health, and in a way all of them come under health and wellness now when I say it out loud, they were very clear about the problem statement at hand. They weren't adamant about one direction of doing it. They were agile. I think being a founder, if you're agile, you will most likely be the winner or the winners in that category.
Correct.
Now, when we evaluate a company, we've been able to come in at pre-product, pre-revenue in many of our ventures journey, but that's not necessarily what we look out for.
Okay. So it's not a hard and fast condition that if you're not pre-revenue, not pre-product, you'll not look at the
no, not at all. We've joined journeys much later as well, because I think venture capital is a path to accelerate your journey. It's not necessarily always needed to start your journey. There are
Correct.
many ventures out there, many of whom that you and I might be consumers of, that
Correct.
didn't rely on any sort of capital, but the most important capital, which is their user or customers' capital. So we feel, when we backed, we recently have invested in a single specialty oncology chain. We believe there's a very large problem of solving for affordable healthcare in this oncology market that is out there. Unfortunately, cancer is becoming more and more prevalent, and there are staggering stats, and we believe we want to cater to it. Now, these founders we backed didn't necessarily need venture capital to begin and be where they are today. They've been able to build a beta positive company. Venture capital can help them accelerate, it help them magnify the impact they want to create. So for us, when we evaluate a venture we want to back, we assess 3 factors.
And I think this is a gold mine for this whole podcast. So I think we need to listen to this very carefully.
The 3 factors largely are: 1, how obsessed is the founder about what they're doing? I am going to repeat that. Obsession for me, for everyone at Huddle, is a key driver. Because there has to be, I love this saying, the method to madness is madness itself. Okay.
Interesting.
And when that founder has that undying passion about what they're wanting to solve for, I would be lucky to be a part of their journey. I mean, when you and I back these founders early stage, we're hoping that they will be category leaders. We're hoping that they will inspire other competitors to come out, right?
Correct.
And therefore, we need a founder to have that undying passion to the goal, not the path to the goal. So what we do is we spend a lot of time in understanding. I'm not going to go as cliche in saying only their why, but also multiple hows. And we throw multiple problem statements at them. We create hypothetical situations with them so that we understand, how are they problem solving? Are they the only person answering the problem solving? So what kind of team can they build? I think obsession has a certain energy to it that drives which attracts, right? And I think that's something that we really evaluate. The second element of evaluation is, why Huddle? Like, why is Huddle going to be their partner? There are so many.
Because capital today is available.
Absolutely. And there are, sometimes if you put the wrong ingredient in a meal, that ingredient is the reason the meal is ruined. So why should Huddle be the reason they're going to grow? So what we do in order to do that is we assess how can we enable them. Now, you asked the question of enablement. One of the points is, can we help them in developing their business? Now, business development, I think for any early stage founder, and I believe most will agree, is helping them create traction, helping them sell.
With their GTM, with their partnerships.
And literally giving them access to doors that will give them that revenue generation. But at the same time, can we help them with cutting their costs in the back end? Because one is creating revenue, the other is generating better margins.
Correct.
If we have an understanding of how to do that, I believe the founder will start seeing value in the social capital Huddle brings alongside the financial capital.
Very interesting.
The second part is, you and I are fortunate that we have a great network of friends who run other funds, family offices, institutionalized, maybe corporate venture arms that can help our founders. So can we help them in their fundraising journey? Not helping them fundraise. That I think great founders know how to do. Their companies attract capital. So can we start helping them work in building their relationships with people that will be relevant for them 5, 7, 10 years later. So fundraising access. And then I think everything in between is circumstantial. Today, we've been lucky to see companies grow into the scale they have. So helping them with hiring, helping them with the odd cases of, okay, listen, I need to figure out how do I get this team member to get motivated. Okay, listen, I think there's a dull moment in my team. We've gone through every scenario, right? Can you come and motivate the team?
Correct.
Okay, I think I made a mistake in my town hall like situation. So these odd where your founders are now reaching out to you because there's a sense of vulnerability you share, right?
Correct.
When you come in early. I think everything in between is circumstantial. And I think on the last point, sectorally we're agnostic.
Okay.
But we have to evaluate these parameters.
Hmm.
And the third element, the third ingredient for me is the founder assessing you? So I've had founders sit with us and say, what do you feel about X industry I'm in?
this
Where do you
category.
think this is going?
Yeah.
So it's almost like, because see, and I'm going to say this out on your platform, and I say, I've said it many a times, the VC ecosystem has created, for some reason, a perception that the investor holds a little more weightage in the early stages than the founder.
Yeah.
I think that is incorrect. I firmly believe it's incorrect. The reason we are there as backers is because of our founders, right? And the founders around us.
Yeah.
So I love it when because if a founder is possessive about their organization, for me, they are possessive about their team members.
Yeah.
They are possessive about the growth and the longevity.
Yeah.
So now they're assessing you. And I think that creates the right that camaraderie, that relationship that gets built is something that I gauge. And a fourth thing that I do, which I didn't want to say, but now I'm saying it, is over the last few years, I do like putting our founders in, I don't like ha people, are they just agreeing for the sake of it? So sometimes we internally will, in pre-investment committee meetings, maybe speak a direction that we don't agree on. And that might not necessarily be healthy for the business.
Interesting. And we'll see how the founder reacts. Yeah.
Because by the end of it, it's their journey.
Yeah.
We want to be a part of it. We want, for a long term, we want to help them go from 0 to 1 and 1 to 10.
Yeah.
So sometimes we just, throw forks in the road to say, see, are they going over it or around it?
Yeah. Interesting. Super. I think very relevant, like for any founders reaching out to Huddle, I think this is the framework.
I think that last bit I shouldn't have said.
I think it's a secret sauce. But interesting. And, you mentioned one very interesting thing, right? That sometimes, you meet a lot of founders who have bootstrapped their business to a certain extent and now are looking at raising capital. And I meet hundreds of founders, regularly as well, right? So people would say, should we bootstrap? Should we raise capital? So when people are coming to you to raise capital, like why are they raising for? Like, do you have a checklist there as well? Like, when should a founder look at raising money? Why should they be raising it for? Should it be growth capital? Should it be in terms of developing their product? Should it be testing out a particular thesis?
Before answering that, I'll also tell you that we do question why are you raising to a founder, because I think we're all aware that raising capital comes with a responsibility.
Yeah.
Today, I invest on behalf of a lot of trusted investors of mine who are LPs in my fund, invest capital as a general partner myself. So there's someone who's trusted us with a certain goal in mind of how this capital can appreciate, the kind of value they want to see, the kind of founders they want to back. So there's a responsibility we have as general partners. And then I have to therefore understand that when I'm representing some people's certain capital. And that comes under the name of Huddle Ventures.
Correct.
But when I'm talking to a founder and finding out why are they raising, I also try and understand, do they understand the weightage? I wouldn't call it baggage, but cargo that raising capital comes with, right? The kind of return, not expectation, but timelines you might want to raise. Now, there are certain industries that I don't think
that's sustainable.
That are just, whether you're sustainable or not, do you really want to raise? Because sometimes the sustainable growth part continuously will be better than the inorganic growth part and then going to sustainability. And so we debate that with founders because not necessarily do founders understand that what are the nuances of the terms in these agreements. So rather than it coming around as a surprise to them after they've signed a term sheet, we sometimes make them privy to it beforehand. And then it's very important so that they're comfortable because then when you're doing paperwork, it's easier. But
and I mean, just to maybe elaborate on that a little bit more. So like when a founder is looking at a company being VC backed, right? Like what is the kind of exit or like an opportunity that a VC is looking at?
It's a hard question for us to answer, and I'll tell you why. Because we're a philosophy that the venture ecosystem, or when you talk to investors who might or might not have invested in early stage or even just private equity, it is
Yeah.
one out of two, 1 in 2 of 10 companies will be returners. That's a common
Correct.
phenomenon. Maybe
Yeah.
past data could suggest that in
Yeah.
certain areas.
Yeah.
Our philosophy is we're not in the business of building absolutely outstanding 1 or 2 companies. We want
Got
to
it.
build consistently great companies.
Interesting.
Or extremely very good companies. Now, what that means is every founder of ours, when we're backing them, we're
Yeah.
saying, you're going to be able to return the fund.
Yeah.
That's the kind
Yeah.
of view we have to have, right?
Yeah. Every company that you're investing into has to be a winner, and that's when
We want to, because for that founder, it is their life.
It is their life.
Yeah. And therefore, we don't want to evaluate them with another portfolio.
Yeah.
For them, Huddle is their fund, and
Correct.
they are the only venture. That's the kind of mindset we have, which means we're really assessing all the elements of how can we enable them, how long are they thinking in their journey. Then coming back to the earlier query, right, of do they understand the responsibility capital has? So when we do start doing exit mapping with them, right, we actually start doing exit mapping of their exit journey. Now, yes, many founders say, I don't want to exit. And I love that. I mean, great, right? They're not, that is the right mindset to build with in many ways.
Yeah.
But it's important for us to understand what would lead for your exit outcome.
Correct.
Because we're early stage investors. We have, 4, 5, 6, 7 year horizons. We've seen exits happen earlier. We can hold on to 7 years. We can hold maybe to another year if needed.
And it's a fiduciary responsibility as well to then return the capital.
So I think when we're doing the founders mapping, do we come to exactly, you hit the nail on the head. They have to understand our fiduciary responsibility, right? The people that have trusted us.
Yeah.
And that's when they realize, okay, what's my growth chart going to be?
Yeah.
How am I actually going to be able to create? And then you figure out your multiples.
Yeah.
In the early stages, that's all you can do. You can put capital largely towards marketing and team. I think you and I both know that largely it goes into team and marketing. A certain amount goes into product. But what we are backing our founders to do is replicating growth and then diversifying opportunities within their ecosystems, right? Whether that means a vertical depth of product they come out with, a newer set of services they might come out with.
Yeah.
All of that is
I think
circumstance.
Wellverse in your portfolio is a classic example, right? Like now they almost like a house of brands in the health and wellness space, 4 core brands doing a 150 crore revenue, PAT positive, insane growth.
Yeah, I think it's a great example. Wellversed was a company called Ketofy when we had the opportunity of backing Anand, Ripunjay and Aditya. They were building products for people that needed keto products for their lifestyle. Some people who are diabetic. But now, as you rightly mentioned, they've been able to build 4 brands from their own R&D team, built it extremely well, sustainably. I always joke with, and I have joked with Anand a bunch of times, that when he sets his own targets, sometimes he feels like he's lowballing himself and he's always over-exceeding them. And the reason he's been able to do that is because their emphasis on repeat usage, being so close to their customer and understanding how can they further enrich their livelihood is a classic example.
Yeah.
And you're right, with Wellversed, it's been a journey where maybe if you ask the founders, did you know it's going to be so large so soon? I think they'll say no, because I guess that's because the founders are so focused on the today.
Yeah.
They know what's going to come tomorrow, but they're so focused on the execution of today.
Yeah.
And I think that's a classic example of, sometimes you just don't know what's going to come in your journey. So you have to just focus on the moment. You have to stay close to your customer. And as investors, we have to also be patient and, more importantly, just have outright trust on our founders in how they'll build.
Yeah, interesting. I think you mentioned that you guys are sector agnostic, right? But, from your POV, like, are there 2-3 sectors that you guys are very, very bullish on?
Yeah, I think, I can speak for my part of it as part of, I'm not going to speak on behalf of Ishan and all the other members at Huddle. See, firstly, I believe if you had to narrow that down to just one also, I'd say enablers of
Interesting. I think that's something that we share in
Yeah,
common. Yeah.
absolutely. And I
Correct.
think we've had this discussion in the past as well that commerce enablers are going to be, can build outright winners
Yeah.
for varied reasons. A couple of them being that India, as we are all reading, has India 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Therefore, there's so much consumption to be catered to. So
Yeah.
I think logistics players, companies like Light Store, as I was mentioning, that help you go offline. Companies that are like Zippy in the warehousing ecosystem.
Yeah.
You know, the incredible growth of a Blinkit
Yeah. Correct.
is a testament
Yeah.
that enabling these brands, enabling MSMEs is going to be a winner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Over and above that, I would say healthcare. We are because there's such a
We're
large,
supremely deprived in terms of healthcare resources, infrastructure, I think technology.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think healthcare is something that we are really trying to contribute towards with our through our founders. As I was mentioning, oncology is one area. With MyCare, at what Senu is doing such an exceptional role.
Yeah. So you're looking at end-to-end solutions as well in particular spaces within healthcare.
Absolutely. You know, when you look at healthcare, we can go into sexual wellness as a category with Bold Care or oral care with Perfora, but these are consumer brands with a wellness and health focus.
Yeah.
But companies like MyCare are directly catering to surgeries as a segment,
surgeries, yeah.
surgeries, health to tourism of health, trying to get people more affordable and precise quality healthcare. Today we are looking at single speciality across many verticals at Huddle because we believe this middle India who maybe can't afford the larger healthcare providers, might not go to the government subsidized hospitals, needs standardization and needs accessibility. The third, and I maintain this, I think India is can keep building brands, right? And in multiple categories because of the more socially aware consumer there is.
Correct.
So I believe that there is a lot of room when you look at catering for new age parents as a segment in what their kids might eat, what their kids might wear. So I think there, how they will be the edutainment sector for kids. So I think new age consumer brands catering to this new age parent profile is also something that I'm personally very interested in.
Are you a parent yourself?
I am not a parent. I am a pet parent.
Okay.
So that is an industry.
So that's another maybe category that is close to you.
That's a category that I can tell you I'm a huge consumer of. We're not backers of it, but there's obviously so much room over there in terms of what the likes of obviously a Heads Up for Tails has done so brilliantly, and there are so many other new brands out there.
Interesting. I think like in our conversations, I've also here you mentioned that you're very passionate about climate tech and clean tech, right? You've done multiple investments as well, right? Like I was listening to this interview by Nitin Kamath, and he said that the first trillionaire in the world would be somebody who's solving for climate tech at scale. Right? And I was just reading, some stats around this. So the CO2 concentration is the highest it has ever been in the world. 2023 was the hottest year in human history. Over the last 180 years since this metric has been recorded. Only 3% founders building in climate tech ever get funded. Right, and I think you guys have had this thesis on climate tech, clean tech. You've had multiple companies as well who've done well in this space. Like, what do you think about climate tech as an opportunity?
I think it is climate tech. When we break it down into multiple segments, for us, before climate tech became a theme for be it Huddle or anyone else, the most evident sector within climate tech that has always been the backbone of India has been agriculture. And I think if you can keep catering to the farmers and in their livelihoods, enabling them, our country will keep prospering, right? And therefore, we started our investments in agriculture with companies like eFeed, where Kumar has built now a product that can actually help you with methane emission tracking, which is such a large problem statement that can actually help the climate. To a company like Green Grahi that is leveraging food and industrial waste, reprocessing it so that there is almost a circular economy of how fertilizers and feed are being created. And there are large global players of what our founders are doing. But in India, when they built it, when you talk to Shivali and Siddharth at Green Grahi or Kumar, they weren't looking at the global players. They were looking at the
India-specific problem, and we want to solve for the Indian consumer.
Absolutely, and I think that's the beauty of building in this climate tech ecosystem, because if you solve for just India and agriculture to begin with, and I'll get to the other areas soon, it is a very large problem statement that will need many startups, many who are already there, to solve for it. Then when you go into mobility, and I think in mobility we've got some great examples of consumer EV ventures. Like, I'm a huge fan of what Blue Smart is doing. Like incredible.
And just the whole ecosystem with Gensol and all, how they've built it.
Absolutely, and I think what Akash is doing at Zip, and the resilience these founders have had in building something that's so consumer facing, and obviously they've got B2B arms to their businesses as well. One trait of a climate tech founder, right, if I broad bucket them, is they're resilient. Because the problem they're solving, problem they're solving is a problem for
the next 15, 20, 30, 40 years, right?
Yeah, and it's
difficult to monetize today.
So their passion is so social in nature, and I think that is a little more than in many other sectors. So when we look at what a Race Energy is doing in our portfolio, catering towards the three-wheeler market, and the market catering to battery swapping infrastructure. When we spoke to Arun and Gautam, it was literally a pen to paper idea. And they came with the why of it. And it's so social in nature. The kind of people that have partnered with them, the funds that have backed them, have a very long-term view. So for us, sustainability, like in agriculture, sustainability in anything to do with the EV infrastructure is very important. That being said, in our definition of sustainability, healthcare is a very large play. Going back to healthcare. Because to create a sustainable livelihood, you need healthy people. And it's very... the privileged can get healthcare, can be fit, but we need to cater to the people that are the less privileged, that do not have accessibility, that might not
at scale,
and that might not have the time to take care of their daily fitness. So they might need. We don't want to be catering to only curative. We want to create preventive measures as well within our portfolio. So we're starting to look a lot at preventive measures within healthcare as a sustainable theme.
I think there are two investments in my personal portfolio and I'm super excited about in this space. There's a company called Better Nutrition, Green Day. So essentially they are in the bio-fortified health foods category. So we all have fortified atta and all, but they're essentially going to the grassroots level. They're getting those seeds bio-fortified and they're growing their own flour, and then essentially they're retailing them to their own brand and at a price point at which regular fortified atta is available. So I think that's something that at scale. There's another company called Neuranics, which is essentially doing 10-minute CBC blood tests, with a drop of blood, right? And I think you mentioned about oncology patients. You mentioned about like when you look at pediatrics, or essentially there's so much blood required in all of these treatments. If you can actually do a CBC test, which is 80% of the blood tests in the country, with a drop of blood with 99.9% clinical accuracy available with every doctor in the country, then you're kind of solving it at scale. You're reducing the time for a blood test. So I think again, like massive opportunities, in these spaces,
incredible,
which are available. I think one off-topic question. I think you were I can see that you're wearing an Arsenal jersey, and you also talked about having a sportsperson mindset. So first of all, why did you decide to become a fan of Arsenal? What was that story?
So the reason I'm wearing this before that is because you're a Liverpool fan, and I want to wear this as a reminder that Arsenal was
finished ahead of Liverpool for the last 2 seasons.
But
they've not won anything for the longest time.
Perseverance will hopefully.
Correct. I'll tell you why I started supporting Liverpool. Right. So I've been a follower since 1998, and I realized since I've been following Liverpool, if you exclude the last 4-5 years, they never won anything. Right. And I in my personal capacity, I like to support the underdog, right? So like I always feel that if I can support the number 2 or number 3, and maybe my influence or my support can actually take them to number 1, you know. So you have this feeling. And when I started following football, Manchester United was always winning, you know, and so I felt that if I can start supporting with my extra support, maybe Liverpool wins. And that's been my personal investment theory as well. So I'll maybe not invest in the founder, you know, who has all the support, you know, who is a rockstar founder. Maybe I'll support the founder who needs that support more.
Amazing.
So yeah.
That's that. You know, I'll. So why Arsenal in our case? In my when I say I, you know, team members who support Arsenal, my family.
Is it mandatory to like to be an Arsenal fan?
It's a part of the. It's a part of the role. No, so you know, as a family, we support Arsenal, and that's mandatory. But for me, Arsenal, it's. I was a huge, and I remain to be a huge fan of Arsene Wenger, who was our manager. And there was Arsenal has been known for breeding and creating great footballers from a very...
So they don't buy the best, they actually create the best.
And when Arsenal's football takes place, it's clinical and it's beautiful. As a, you know, I joke with people, see, Arsenal's not won. I think I know why you asked this question. Arsenal's not won the league in 21 years now.
Correct. But I've been through that, so I understand the
pain. Yeah, but you guys won the league, no? So but in our case, I joke with a lot of founders who follow football that one thing I can tell you about us is we're patient people because we support Arsenal. We're waiting. But no, I see. I think being a sports person, you affiliate your love to people and footballers that you admire. For me, it was Thierry Henry. Now it's all the younger players at Arsenal. And I think a sports person is by far the most fascinating creature there is because they start something at an age where you're developing.
Correct.
But their maturity you can happen over one match, over one training session. And then they have to maintain their quality and improve their quality. And I think that's something
that's very important, because what I take back from a sports person mindset is that it's very easy to start a sport. I mean, all of us can start a sport. I mean, you can get pretty good at it, but to be the best at that sport, you need to be consistent at it. You know, there's this, I think, famous quote by Michael Jordan. He says that, behind that one shot of Chicago Bulls against LA Lakers, you know, that one shot which is now framed, there was 10,000 hours of non-stop practice, right? So, I mean, like, I think that perseverance, persistence, to be consistent, you know, in your sport is, you know, what makes you the best. And I think that's something that I take back from, you know, being having the sports person mindset.
I completely relate with that as well.
Yeah. Amazing. I think, you know, you also mentioned that you guys are pretty approachable and reachable. So how does a founder reach out to Huddle Ventures, you know, if they're looking at raising money?
Even if they're not looking to raise money, please reach out to us. We're always very, very keen to talk to founders. We are easily approachable on our LinkedIns, where I'm approachable over email.
What should be the subject line when people reach out to you?
I mean, I'll tell you. It's so funny you ask this. I'll tell you a subject line that I got recently, which was quite funny. I tend to open all my emails. I'm one of those that likes having a negative, you know, going to a zero email, zero email.
0-100,
I rather have that towards the end of the day. It's very hard to do it, but I try and maintain it. But one person reached out saying, if you don't look at this deck, you will regret it.
Oh,
and you know, it was just as simple as that. It was quite funny. Then, you know, we keep getting, frankly, anyone can reach out to us. You know, I'm at Sanil at huddleventures.vc. We're available over LinkedIn. We'd love to come and talk to any founders in the early or growth stage, whether they're raising or not. But I think there are extremely unique ways people have reached out. Someone reached out, which I think we were talking about, reached out saying, I'm a huge fan of Ria, that's my wife. And I said, okay, that's really fascinating.
Wow.
And I said, okay, now I'm obligated to understand why. Okay, so what am I second in this? Why you reached out? So they're very unique ways.
I think she runs a not-for-profit as well, right?
Yeah, she runs an organization helping those with acid attacks that get acid attacks, called Make Love Not Scars. Incredible real impact that her organization's been doing for a decade, so 10 years and more.
And I think globally recognized as well, right?
Yeah. She's her organization has been, and as is she, and I'm lucky to just witness that journey as a passenger to what she does.
Amazing. So, I think in terms of reaching out, one thing that I've also learned, from you, right? So, and you mentioned that the equation of a founder and investor is at the same paddle, right? Like, I mean, like, it's not that like a founder is obligated to kind of reply to investor. What I've seen with you is that, you also do a lot of cold reach outs yourself, right? And, so why do you do that? Like, is it intellectual stimulation? Is it like growing your network? And like, what have you learned from reaching out to newer people?
So this trait started just prior to the lockdown. It got amplified during the lockdown, and the trait was, I would go over LinkedIn, or if I would find someone's email, I would send them a in message, which would just be very contextual to what they do and why I'd want to talk to them. So an example of that could be, I remember reaching out to a friend of mine who runs a organization called Equinox, which is Equinox Labs. His name is Ashwin Badri, and we've been friends for maybe 5 years now. And I reached out to him because I read about Equinox, and I said, I'm really fascinated about Equinox, and I'd love to learn more about it. Maybe, if I'm not wrong, I put something contextual about one of the organizations we have.
Interesting.
And I reached out to him, and he's such a gracious founder himself. He reached out immediately, and we built an incredible friendship that has gone beyond a virtual friendship. And and for me, when I reach out to someone, which I think what I was mentioning I did just earlier this morning, is if I've heard about someone that has been spoken about with high regard by someone who I have high regard from, I just want to learn about them. Often you will find that the people that talk about people you admire, when they talk about someone they admire, you're going to connect with that principle. You will definitely respect the work they do. It is for the stimulation of the mind, but it's also about network building. I think one thing that I would urge anyone to do is be absolutely open about cold reach outs. Don't be shy of it. The worst that will happen is you won't get a response.
Correct.
When you reach out to these people, you build a wider network of those you can learn from, those who can help your ecosystem. I still do it to date, by at least 5 out of 7 times a week, where I reach out to 2 to 3 people. I set up calls, and I endorse people to do that when they reach out to me as well. Because the second worst thing that could happen is the 10-15 minute call where you're like, okay, this just doesn't relate.
Correct.
And the best thing that can happen is you build friendships for a lifetime. So
and I think when I reach out to people, I have this philosophy that life is never about exchanging dollars. It's not only about that, right? So like, I mean, like, if you actually just reach out to just know the other person, I mean, just discuss your work, and I mean, like, just look at areas of collaboration. I think what I have seen is that, and there's this it's quite tacky, but there's this very famous Tata Sky campaign, which was like कि पूछने में क्या जाता है, right? So there was this guy who asked Shahrukh, कि can I have dinner at your place? And Shahrukh actually invites him, and the other people are shocked, right? And so what I've seen is that the best of founders, investors, anyone in the ecosystem, I mean, they are very responsive. So if you reach out to somebody with the right extent, more likely, they'll reply. I think that's how we also got connected. We never knew each other, right? We just connected over cold DM, over LinkedIn, and we've been collaborating ever since. Right? So I think, and one of my mentors also told me this, if you're looking at growing in a particular space, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's investments, try to speak to 2-3 people every day, who are doing the same, whose work you admire, right? And as you said, like, the worst could be they don't reply. The worst could be that you have a conversation, you make a fool of yourself. But the more you do it, the more you learn, and the more you'll kind of build your network.
Absolutely. And because you mentioned Tata Sky, in fact, there's another cliche. There's another Tata Sky ad only that said, keep it simple, silly. Ranbir Kapoor was doing stand-up, and he just said, keep it simple, silly. And I think I think we should simplify things in life. The simpler your thought process, the better it is. And I think don't overcomplicate that reach out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just be straight
Yeah.
up about how you want to talk to them.
Yeah.
You'll probably get a revert.
Correct. Correct. And I also know that you're a big proponent of supporting mental health for founders, and talking about that. I was reading this research done by Economic Times, and it said that 70% founders are anxious or stressed about their businesses. 81% founders are stressed but don't talk about it, right? So how can a founder deal with that? Like, what have you seen in your case work for you, and how does a founder manage stress on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I mean, it's this is a very large subject. I'm really glad you brought this up. We we talk so much in our industry about successes.
Yeah.
These success, we do talk about setbacks as well, or failures.
Yeah.
But the journey a founders had through their failure, through their setback, through their successes, is one that has many potentially voices in their mind, doubts, second guessing opinions, external factors.
Yeah.
We look at founders and we see them as professional beings.
Yeah.
Many times wearing blinders to the person and the person behind it. We don't know their personal lives.
Correct. And it's so surprising. I feel that we never ask a follow-up question, right? So like, for example, I'll ask you, Sanil, how are you? You said I was unwell last week. I would never ask that follow-up question. Oh my God, what happened? Can I help you? We'll just say okay. And then we'll just move on to our work and all, right? So I don't think sometimes we deeply care.
Yeah. I think now, in order to really care about someone, right? The point is, I think it's important for all of us as the founding, as the ecosystem of startups, to just be available.
Correct.
Just be there. Being a good listener is the best thing you can do for someone, whether they need it or not. So I think one trait is be a good listener. You will soon realize that in those silences, whether you should help them by saying or by listening. How people can manage stress, I mean, I can only speak about from my point of view, because everyone has their own ways, is I think it's important to exert energy through some sort of a lifestyle of, whether it's running for you, whether it's meditation. For me, it is definitely running. It is ensuring that I start my day with silence, with myself, with my dog as well. Just being in an environment of nothingness, working out, so exerting energy, because then you don't know what the day is going to bring to you.
Correct.
Now, if someone is stressed or our founders are stressed, if you're a part of their circle that they're willing to talk to, should you talk to them? Don't encroach yourself. Don't go into someone's circle. That's the don't if they don't trust you to be in that circle, don't even ask 2-3 questions after you've asked the first or second. I think we need to be a little more pro the concept of failure. We need to be open that there will be a lot of struggle in what we do. There'll be newer struggles. Correct. So, I'm a firm believer of a mindset that, I can't remember who taught me this or said this, and I'm stealing this line, it's not mine, that every new professional struggle is better than yesterday's struggle. Now, that's just a very positive,
great way to look at it.
Great way to look at it. But it's easier said
than done. Are you 1% better than what you were yesterday?
And it's easier said than done. So just build a circle. You said something earlier, which is great, founders or good founders, or a collaborative ecosystem. Let's remove great and good in it only. Collaborative ecosystem people will always revert.
Correct.
So if you surround yourself with these people, just be vocal about, hey, what did you go through during this growth phase, or this decline, or this plateau? And you'll probably hear something that will be relevant in your perspective.
I also feel that entrepreneurship is a sine wave, right? And it's never a steady growth line. It's, I think, this, then this, then maybe this, and then this, right? So maybe I think staying measured in terms of whenever you have those successes and those failures, and not being very happy with the successes and not being too low with the failures, and kind of having a long-term view, I think really helps. And I also feel that sometimes we tend to over glorify failures, rather than, when a person has announced that, they've kind of, I think, stopped their venture or shutting
Yeah.
down their venture, we tend to over glorify that rather than helping them
Yeah.
when they're going, when they're going through that. So,
absolutely. And I think, you mentioned something that's so relevant, where we also have to understand the multiple factors these founders are going through, or anyone running an organization is going through. It's them, the people that work with them. That's very important. So there's so much that's accountable. They're accountable for. And to the point of, the sine wave, I have this, I wrote this quote 8 to 9 years ago, which is still on my in my study at home, which said, I had never experienced a roller coaster, and then I became an entrepreneur.
Wow.
And,
so true.
And that's actually
Correct.
just the exact journey, right?
Correct.
That all of us
Yeah.
that are either entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs are going through.
Yeah.
It is a constant growth, and it's a constant up, down, and frankly, a roller coaster journey.
Yeah. What's been the craziest story, like one crazy story you've had, while building Huddle or any of your ventures?
Well, I wouldn't say crazy, but something that we
Or a fun anecdote, yeah.
oh, many fun anecdotes. Okay, so I'll give you a fun anecdote, and I'll tell you something that we've consistently seen. I think, okay, first, what we've consistently seen was when we set up Huddle, when we set our goal of institutionalizing early stage, we continuously emphasized on financial capital being aided by social capital, intellectual capital. We've been saying this like it's a mantra.
Yeah.
We believe it. We say it every day.
Yeah.
We hopefully practice it every day.
Yeah.
A lot of people challenge that because they said, but this is not how the industry has been.
Yeah.
Frankly, the VC ecosystem in India is not even that old to what's happening in the West.
Correct.
And the VC ecosystem in India is going to outlast any ecosystem. The kind of founders that we have, the kind of the hardest working people in the world, we will outpace it.
Correct.
So I think there's room to do something differently. We were questioned, why are we doing it differently now? And I think, we never had a sliver of doubt that we want to do it differently.
Yeah.
But we always doubted, can we go wrong? And then we said, who cares if we go wrong?
Correct.
Right? I mean, we're not here for just today and tomorrow. We want to build this organization, Huddle, which will be a fund, which will be an ecosystem. There'll be many more peers out there, Huddles out there, who could do better for our founders, right? And founders in the ecosystem. So we were continuously saying that, alag kyun nahi kar rahe, alag kyun kar rahe ho? Why? There's a methodology of how early stage is done. There's a methodology of how early stage funds work in. Do it this way.
Yeah.
Fun anecdote, so we started, I remember our first office that we had, and this is when we were also, getting people to co-work in our space.
This is what year?
This is in 2018. And it was a space that we had just opened, and people would keep coming in the first week. It was a fairly, if I may say so, I have a bias, it was designed well. And it was in Cyber City, and people would come in and say, are you open? And we're like, yeah, we're open. And they were like, are you serving food and drinks?
Yeah.
And we're like, are we looking more like a restaurant than an office? And then, Ishan and I would get these messages from people reaching out saying, menu. And we're like, okay.
My God.
And then we realized, what are we doing wrong? Okay, what are we doing? We're doing something majorly wrong. We're not communicating to people what we are not. So we made it very clear what we are. And I think, fun anecdotes also is, just the founder interactions we've had, right? Like we were talking about Senu at MyCare. I remember speaking to him. When we backed him, it was the thick of lockdown. And his first conversations with me were only about football and sports and life.
Wow.
That's it.
Amazing.
And I was
imagine chatting with a VC on that. So getting to know them on a personal front.
And then you just realize how passionate he's about something that maybe takes up 45 minutes of his day.
Correct.
So now imagine how passionate he'd be about something that's going to take up the rest of his life.
Yeah, interesting.
And I think these were very interesting anecdotes. Rajat, when he was leaving his previous role to start Bold Care, right? The energy in which he came, he sat and he said, Sanil, I want to do this. And you're just lucky to see those journeys. And I think those are the elements that sound crazy in the moment that
Yeah.
hopefully, you know, we will be seeing many of.
Yeah.
Yeah, largely these.
Amazing. I think 2-3 traits that I'm really getting, of amazing founders in your portfolio. It's like the product obsession, right? I think it's their passion, towards the problem. And I think, like the idea to just like kind of have a discussion about it. I mean, be open about it. Like again, looking at what they want to build, but like be open to different routes and how you want to solve for the problem, right?
Yeah, product obsession is a great point. I mean, you know, when you look at Blue Tokai,
Yeah.
right, and I think what Matt
And you guys
Namrata-
invested early, right?
we were very lucky to be early backers.
Yeah.
We remain to be avid consumers and believers in their journey now. But there was product obsession, right?
Yeah.
What they had built in the Saidullah Jab, Champa Gali
Yeah.
cafe,
Correct.
the design aesthetic that went in from day zero. It showcases that these are brands that will last. These
Yeah.
are companies that will last.
Yeah.
I think the other point also is when you talk to your founders teams that are going to be, you know, ESOP holders that have founder ownership, how do they represent the organization?
Yeah.
Because they are the backbone
Yeah.
of these companies.
Correct.
They will turn these startups into organizations, as I look at it.
Yeah.
So we really assess and over-index on that also.
Interesting.
And all our ventures that are seeing, this growth
Yeah.
have this commonality of
Yeah.
a team that is so solid
Yeah.
that they're the strongest legs, that the
Yeah.
tabletop can keep changing.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
legs will always
Have
be
you
there.
also seen some, commonality in terms of how these founders hire?
It's the best. I mean, I know I was talking to one of our founders yesterday, and we were talking about hiring, and I don't know if I can name who he is yet, but he basically said, Sanil, and I told, we were talking about a certain profile that he wants to hire.
Yeah.
And he's like, Sanil, I am in all of these companies' DMs. So just again, vicious cold reach out, right?
Correct. And it's almost like a founder pitching his own business to a
Yes.
potential employee.
You're so right. I think you've hit the nail on the head. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
Yeah.
So the kind of childlike passion to reach out, the
Yeah.
curiosity to say,
Yeah.
hey, listen, you're just pitching their organization. You're right. That is a
Correct.
key trait I
Correct.
have seen in founders.
Interesting. Amazing. Thank you so much, Sanil, for the podcast. I think
Thank
really loved the Huddle journey. I mean, if you have like one last, and I think this whole podcast has been so great in terms of advice to young founders, but one last parting advice to any young founder who's building or who's looking at starting up, like what would that be?
I mean, firstly, thanks for having me. I mean, you know, you're such a delight to watch. You're such a passionate backer of founders yourself, and such a good friend that, you know, is such a believer to us also. I think I just want to keep doing more and more work with you.
And I think it's people like you, like in the ecosystem, who build this whole community that I mean I think
it's a pleasure to be a part of it. So firstly, thank you. In terms of advice kya dunga, I can just say what we believe in.
Yeah.
You know, enjoy every single moment of what you do.
Amazing.
Now you have to hack this level of enjoyment. In order, whenever we feel low about what we do, there's this saying that, again, I think it's my WhatsApp status today, is when you think, when the days are low, don't think of the end journey, think of why you started. Which means you just go back to your roots. Now, that's one part of it. And the second part of it is build something that will go beyond you. When you have such a long-term horizon of what you're doing, you're building the best foundation. And patience and accuracy will always outlast inaccuracy, and will always outlast impatience. Right? It's as obvious as that.
Imagine an early stage VC, saying this, that be patient. I mean, build for perfection. So amazing, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the beauty about perfection is I don't think you'll ever reach it.
Yeah.
Which means you'll have
it's a
something
continual effort, yeah.
Which it'll look a little like this logo. It's continuous.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call out. Amazing, but thank you so much, Sanil. Like, really wishing Huddle Ventures the best in your journey. I know that you've started deploying Fund 2 already. May you have more Blue Tokais and Bold Cares and Perforas and Celsius and My Cares come out of your portfolio.
And accelerates backing our founders with us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm
Thank you.
wishing you the best.